Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And it's been a while since I posted my last video, and I'd recorded a 14-minute preview before the start of the first ODI. And as you can see, there wasn't any preview uploaded on the channel because it took more than a day to upload, and unfortunately it couldn't upload in the end. So I'm sorry about that, and hopefully I've got the issue sorted and that this video can be posted successfully and on time. And I think on the first game, India winning the first game by 12 runs, a game which should have been won by a greater margin from an Indian perspective, a much greater margin. And what a partnership really between Michael Bracewell and Mitchell Santner that really resurrected the chase for New Zealand. Yes, of course, from an Indian perspective, it's much easier to criticize a win than it is to criticize a loss. And the only one thing, a big thing, but the only one thing to as a criticism would be the fact that, yes, they almost let the game go in terms of the outcome. And in terms of where New Zealand were at 131 for 6, and then to score 206 more runs in the way that these two players did, I think India would feel fairly disappointed by that, despite the fact that they got the win in the end. So really well done from those two players. And in the first inning, Shubman Gill 208 of 149 balls, scoring at almost 140 on a surface that was difficult to bat on. And the three highest scores after his score was 34, 31, and 28. So if you take out his innings, India scored 141 for 7. So on a surface that was not easy to bat on, to score such a brisk double century, to get a mammoth score on the board for your side, it was a brilliant effort. And I said this in my preview, and in a way, look, I'm happy now that I think that debate would kind of be put to bed, and that is, there was some talk about why wasn't Ishan Kishan picked as the first choice opener in the Sri Lanka series, and I said in that video and a few other times that I think if there are two players in this player pool of batsmen that you can separate from the other players, and in a way that, if you look at most of the players in the batting pool, I think that with the way they look to score their runs and with the ability they have, of course, I just think that the more they play, the more you expect them to kind of get to the level where they can, and they already are at a very good level, where they can give consistent contributions. And that's for the majority of players in the player pool. Whereas there are two players as of now who I don't get that impression at all, and that is Ishan Kishan, and unfortunately the second one is Virat Kohli. Now on Ishan Kishan, yes, he scored that double century against Bangladesh, but I just think, we've seen this in T20s as well, with the way he looks to go about getting his runs. And going back to the IPL seasons, for example, and I mentioned this just after that 2022 auction was done, where he really struggled against Roston Chase in that West Indies series. When the conditions are favouring the bowlers and when the bowlers do bowl well, I think with the tag that he has in terms of what in T20 is giving that impact start in the power play, and when he does come off, you saw what he did, I think, a couple of years ago now, when there was a game where Mumbai had to get as many runs as they could against SRH. They got 235 via Ishan Kishan scoring 80 and Suryakumar Yadav scoring 82. And you see when he does come off, what he can do. But the thing is that with the way that he looks to go about his runs, I think that if there is any remote challenge, then it does become difficult for him to have an impact. And the difference is subtle, but when he was batting at number 4 for the Mumbai Indians in IPL 2020, I thought that, yes, he did express himself, but he didn't kind of seem like the outright slogger that he is now. I mean, I've seen him play a very good innings, for example, opening the batting in the road safety 11 a few years ago, 124 not out against some quality bowlers, and even Jasprit Bumrah was in that side. And I feel like ever since, yes, of course, after seeing that 80 against the Sunrisers, you thought, what if he has this kind of an impact, a lot more? And unfortunately, with the way that he has gone about his game, we saw in IPO 2022 that if you look at the 1K surface, the ball was moving a lot, as it always does, and the bowlers were bowling well. So in that case, he scored 418 runs at a strike rate of 118, and that was after scoring an 81 of 48 in the first game and 54 of 42 in the second game. So I think that that's once again like kind of overall me summing up that even if he does get a substantial contribution like he did against Bangladesh in that third ODI, it doesn't convince me that that knock will hold him in good stead in the future because of the way that he looks to go about getting his runs. And right now, the limitations in terms of what scenarios are most kind of suited for him in terms of him looking to contribute and getting an overall contribution on the day. And another player who I've used the line, will this innings hold him in good stead, is Virat Kohli. Now, 3 centuries in his last 5 innings, it looks so good. But if you look at the will-up, it doesn't take me to tell you that if you watch those centuries, you'd kind of see it was a bit of a run fest on the day. Bangladesh already had won the series, didn't have a great game in that last one. You see Sri Lanka, who, I mean, with the way especially they crumbled in that last game. I was confused because I even said this in my preview of this series that that surface was a 260, 270 surface, and the fact that they gave 390 runs. You saw what Siraj was doing in the second innings has been, very good in this game as well. I think 4 for 46 and 10, a very good performance from him once again. And even Shreyas said in that Sri Lanka game was turning the ball a huge distance by bowling leg breaks and off breaks. So if he could do that, and they've got a Jeffrey van der Sey who's more an outright wrist spinner who gave 59 runs in his 7 overs, you just don't understand how that can work. So against that kind of bowling, with the way how easy it was really after Kohli crossed 100 to get his runs, I think you can't really look too much into kind of those innings. And I just think that, it's been like this for a while. I just think that it's been, you don't start off the way you started against Bangladesh in those first 2 ODIs, then score that century, then not have a great test series, then score those 2 centuries against Sri Lanka, but in the second game expectedly so get out, and then in this first game once again be dismissed as well for those scores. So the fundamentals ready from the Asia Cup as well. I think ever since this optimism started of just because he's getting runs, can you expect more from him? I know this may sound harsh, but I think reading into more kind of into the contributions, you kind of see that the fundamentals still aren't strong. And when the fundamentals aren't strong, and I think in T20s, when there's that 180 periphery where it kind of was in that T20 World Cup, then you kind of see the knocks that he plays against Pakistan, against the Netherlands, and against Bangladesh. But when in ODIs, the fundamentals have to be strong. And you can have a few innings where there are sides that don't turn up on the day. He scores 3 centuries in 5 innings. But if the fundamentals aren't strong, and against this New Zealand side, who I said in my preview, and even before when previewing the New Zealand versus Pakistan game in the T20 World Cup, they never bottle it with the ball most of the time. I mean, yes, in that Pakistan game, they didn't bowl as well as they should have and could have. But apart from that, generally, you don't see this New Zealand side bottling it with the ball too much. And I just think that, once again, I'm not really expecting too much from these last 2 games. Let's see what he does. And based on how the surface will play, I think that, I'll get to that in a bit. But I think that we'll have to be cautious in terms of what we do expect from him in the other games. But I think Shubman Gill, 208 of 149, I think the debate is kind of settled. Him and Rohit Sharma opening the batting. And I think someone like a Rudraj Gaikwad, the reason why I wanted Gill to bat at 3 even in previous series is because I think someone like a Rudraj Gaikwad, you can put in that category of, he's batting well enough to improve every game, and I think he will be a very good player for India if given the chances. And Shubman Gill's batted at 3 at under 19 level. He's capable of batting at 3 now, I think, despite the fact that he has been doing quite well opening the batting. And if he had Rohit Sharma, Ruturaj Gaikwad, Shubman Gill was a top 3. That's a very good top 3. And I wouldn't have any problems with that at all going into the ODI World Cup. It is what it is, and because of that, Gaikwad hasn't been tried out. I really, the fact that he hasn't been tried out in T20s or ODIs just baffles me, but it is what it is, unfortunately. Brilliant knock from Shubman Gill. And for New Zealand, yes, a fantastic innings from both those two players, Michael Bracewell and Mitchell Santner. And in terms of where the next game is going to be played, it will be played in the Shahid Veer Narayan Singh International Stadium in Raipur. And in terms of the international games, there haven't really been any international games recorded here as far as I can see. 0 ODI games, 0 T20Is, but only 6 domestic T20s where the side batting first won twice and the side batting second won 4 times. And the average first innings score is 146, with the highest score being posted by Delhi in an IPL game, 164 for 5. And there have been 3 scores below 50 and 3 scores between 150 and 169. Now, because there haven't been any international games being played here or ODI games being played here, and that too haven't been any IPL games being played here recently, there's not really too much of a sample size either. So if you're extrapolating based on what I have, I still do think that the spinners it will be a tough ground to bat on, and the spinners will play a part once again. There's a reason why I think, based on how Henry Shipley went in that first game, they could actually play Sodhi instead of him and have 2 more frontline spinners in Mitchell Santner and Sodhi. And they could play Michael Bracewell as a third spinner, who I wouldn't put him as a second frontline spinner. And plus they've got Lockie Ferguson, Blair Tickner, Darryl Mitchell to bowl a few, which you can kind of work with that on a surface that does aid the slower bowlers potentially. And for India, I do think they will play the same side, but on a tactical perspective, they could try they've got Mohammad Shami, Mohammad Siraj, Hardik Pandya already as 3 seamers, and you've got Kuldeep Yadav, Washington Sundar. What they could do is try and play a third spinner from a tactical perspective and play Shahbaz Ahmed instead of Shardul Thakur. The reason why I don't think they will do that is because they said they're looking to narrow down their player pool, and in terms of that player pool, how likely is Shahbaz Ahmed going to fit into into things based on the fact that you've got a Jadeja who will be returning, and that too, and Akshar Patel as well. And I think what India would want the most is one of their 3 seamers to bat, which is the reason why in my preview I thought, still, by the way, Siraj was going, if you're going to play Mohammad Shami and Arshdeep Singh, then you would rather play Deepak Chahar as well, because he's a fantastic bowler, and that too with what he gives it with the bat at number 8 as well. So I think they would want Shardul Thakur to come good, since based on a kind of a seam bowling all-rounder who's more of a bowling all-rounder, I think there are really only Deepak Chahar and Shardul Thakur, and with the fitness issues that Deepak Chahar has been experiencing recently, then I think they would want to give ample number of games to Shardul Thakur as well. So despite the fact that tactically you could play Shahbaz Ahmed, I think they will go with the same side in this game. And yeah, let's see how they go. I do think India will win this game. From Indian perspective, you'd think that they should win it much more comfortably than they did win it in the first game. But yeah, let's see how it goes. But I do think that India will win this game. I think the surface will play out similar to what it was in that first game. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share the video with a friend. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?